Hello, hi. Welcome to your favorite Makoti podcast, Makoti Unveiled. Now, they say into emnandi iyaphindwa. If it's nice, we do it twice. And so that's exactly what we're doing here on Makoti Unveiled. We're talking finances again because it's such a big topic now, isn't it? Yes, it definitely is. Today we are joined once again by Andile Jonas, and he is a financial expert. Sir, good morning.
Morning.
How are
Morning.
you?
I'm very well, thanks. How are you doing?
I'm super excited and nervous about today's episode. Okay, so last time we were speaking about finances and all the nice things when you speak about finances in the first date, all those nice things. Now, I'm gonna ask you to go deeper, please, man of God. Ne?
Sure.
Okay,
Let's do it.
let's talk about finances, or rather, financial gender based violence. What is that?
Oof. A big one, a topical one, interestingly enough. I think it can mean different things, all right? Gender-based violence as a concept is a very broad concept. And financial gender-based violence is also, I think, in itself something that warrants a deep dive. But I think it manifests in many ways. It manifests in financial bullying, perhaps in a couple. It manifests in uncomfortable financial control in a couple. It manifests in a power disparity in a couple. So there's various ways I think that it looks like in a couple. But ultimately, it is the expression of one's power over another financially, whether man to woman or woman to man. We also know these days that when women out in the marketplace are earning these salaries, these big salaries, sometimes can be abusive to the men who are not, just like men have been doing for many years to women. So these are some of the examples of what financial gender-based violence can look like.
Okay, can you explain it to me like I'm five?
Sure.
Right? Um, when we talk about gender based violence, the thought on our viewers' minds could be he's punching her or she's clapping him. That's the gender based violence. But when we talk about financial, what does that mean?
Right.
Does it mean I have to ask you as the partner, may I please go buy those shoes? Do you mind if I buy a kg of cornflakes this month instead of 500 grams? And I know I'm making silly examples here, but
Sure.
we just want to understand exactly what this means.
Okay. I mean, let me give you a few examples that I can think of off the top of my head. When you come back home from work and you find a new fridge in the kitchen, as my wife, I say to you, now remember, that's mine. I bought that. That's not ours, that's mine. All right? If you come back from holiday with me and you find that at the house I have done a few things whilst we were away, painting, maybe a little reno here or there, and I come back and I say to you, whatever you see that is different is because of me. That is mine. I have increased the value of this property and our estate. Me, not you.
It's not us.
Belongs to me.
And it's not us.
It's not us. Right? When I make sure that whatever you earn is spent in its entirety, because I leave the outstanding expenses in the house to deplete your account, whereas mine is still half full. This is gender-based violence. It's to keep you in a state of dependence.
So if anything goes down, the abused party can't just leave.
I mean, I think there's always options.
Yeah.
Your determination and your state of desperation is going to decide whether or not you leave or stay or fix. I'm not here to say, here's what you should do. But the idea is to create dependency. I think financial gender-based violence is really about creating dependency. You should always look to me for any step left or right you want to take. I'm in control. And I think that's the essence of it.
Okay. Many people will talk about submission in marriage. They'll talk about, I don't even want to go the biblical route with it, but the expectation is that a woman is submissive to her husband, and there's consultation in marriage. So how different rather is what you're saying to consultation in a marriage?
Look, I mean, marriage means different things to different people.
Okay.
I'm not a marriage counselor. And will never purport to have an understanding of the marital landscape of society. But I do know that when you're having financial conversations or financial planning thoughts, that conversation is critical. That's a critical conversation. It's important that we are on the same page. It's actually equally important even if we disagree. Even if we disagree, I at least understand where you are versus where I am.
I see. The two different mindsets.
The two different mindsets. I think that's a healthier place to be than absolute ignorance about each other's financial mindsets. So without sort of referring to Proverbs, women, and things like that, I think, and I'm a strong believer in this. But I think it's a consultative nature that I have. It's an inclusive nature that I have. Is I'd like to know what you think about what tomorrow looks like and how we get there.
Now, I want to cut you short here, Budwamne, because you mentioned the fact that it's financial gender-based violence if the one party can't move without the other, right? And I want us to bring that into context with consultation, because you're talking about being in a consultative state with your partner. So having to say, I think it's time to get a new car. Is that part of consultation, or is it being controlled because you can't just go to the dealership by yourself?
I like the question. So at what point do we have the discussion about what we're going to buy? In other words, do you need to know which coffee I'm going to buy when I do groceries? I don't want to know that, right? I don't. But if you're going to spend 50,000 Rand on a piece of art, I do want to know.
Okay.
If you're going to come back home with a new car, then both people should know.
But it's my money.
Right?
Like, I'm the one who said, good morning, ma'am, good morning, sir, at my workplace. You were at your own workplace.
Yeah.
So can I not spend my money however way I want to?
So let's reframe that question.
Okay.
Right? I have my money, you have your money. We have a financial future that we're planning for together. Now, because we have that future, to what extent is your money entirely for you to do with whatever you like, and mine, when we've got this thing that we are aiming towards and working towards together?
Okay.
So, I don't have a very simple answer for everybody, because I don't think one exists. I don't think there's a couple that's going to work like another. However, I do think that there's a line where we are both comfortable that until this point, or till that Rand value, go wild. Spend, choose, decide. But beyond that Rand value, we must discuss.
I think then it goes back to the statement you made the last time you were here when we were talking about finances, in terms of communicating, making sure that we're on the same page. So you can buy that car if you want to, as long as we've spoken about it. I suppose that's where we're going. Hey.
I think speaking about it is even that's not enough.
Okay.
I think it's got to be part of a plan. I think if I stumble onto a lovely bonus this year, let's all keep our fingers crossed. We've sat down and we've planned the next year, the next 5 years. We've seen our financial horizon and we're working towards it. Just because there is an anomaly in that income stream doesn't necessarily give me the opportunity or I don't know, gap to then deviate from that plan.
Aw, pop mabhodlela.
I think Pop Mabodlela is a great idea because that doesn't deviate us. But if we're in a Porsche, then all of a sudden it's like, hang on, are we still aiming for that North Star? Just because the money's there doesn't mean we deviate from our North Star. And I think
Just
this
because
is,
the money's there.
and this is the idea about financial planning. And this is the momentum philosophy. This is the idea is that your journey to success, that North Star needs to remain your North Star.
Okay.
And there will be anomalies along the way. There will be injections, there'll be depletions, there'll be all sorts of things that
As
attempt
expected.
to deviate.
Yeah.
And keeping your eye firmly on that North Star becomes even more important during those times.
Okay. Now, I know your institution speaks a lot about women empowerment. It speaks a lot about, girl, do your thing,
That's right.
be empowered.
That's
Ne?
right.
It's in the Winnie Mandela vibes. She multiplied. But I want to find out then what role, and I don't want to call it feminism, but that girl boss vibe that you guys are, you guys have going on there. And, you in that girl boss vibe, you in your Beyonce, you in, it's independent woman,
That's
right?
right.
Exactly. So what role does all of that have in a marriage? And in the context of it being depleted or diluted, are you able to be an independent woman but still be in a marriage? Is it about independence? Is it codependence? Is it interdependence?
Yeah. Look, I mean, that's a question for the ages, right? Because I'll speak about myself personally first, and then I'll go into the organization at
Okay.
large. I'm privileged that I have grown up in a family of very strong women, right? So I've had examples of what independence looks like in a healthy way, right? It wasn't at the expense of anything. It wasn't at the expense of a relationship, a marriage, a couple, anything like that. So it's a principle that to me I'm not only comfortable with, but I believe in. So the values that I have as a human being were quite aligned when I walked into an environment that was momentum, that started saying things like hashtag she owns her success, hashtag dear working woman. I loved those things, resonated with me. Also because it's a conversation that needs to happen, and it needs to happen continuously. We take for granted, I think, that inside the boardrooms of South Africa today, that there are competent, capable, expert women who are sitting there feeling like imposters, feeling like they don't belong. But they certainly do. They not only belong, they're needed. Their voice is needed. So I think that conversation is one that I feel we need to have regularly. That said, does the idea of she owns her success work inside this marital regime, this concept? It's a bigger conversation about South Africa's idea of masculinity and patriarchy, and to what extent men are able to manage their idea of provider within a setup that has an independent woman. It's a bigger discussion. When it comes to finances, though, I think that there is a harmony that can be achieved by an independent woman inside a marriage, however traditional. I think there is a harmony that can be found where, if I can maybe use a cultural reference, where she is the strong neck holding up the head of the household, the strong neck in a financial context, right? Where some decisions may not be made by you, but you make sure that the information that one needs to make those decisions is readily available. You provide them with a context that makes those decisions clearer. So there is a way, I think, to do it. And again, I hesitate to wander into relationship counseling territory. I want to keep it a financial discussion, but I think what matters, as an independent woman. You know the things that matter, bring those to the fore, bring those to the table. Understand that if I know that we are spending 2,000 Rand on insurance, we're spending 7,000 Rand on groceries, we're spending 8,000 Rand on solar, we're spending, and you add all of these up and you say, right, that budgeting process, just a view of that changes how I see my finances in my household. Just a view of it. I might think I know, but when you write it down and then you push it forward to the husband to say, take a look, what do you think we should do?
Now, one of this man here, he thinks he's going to get a third episode and he's not getting one. I just want you to know, brother, there's no third episode here for you because, hey. But now you've touched on a point on budgeting because I wanted us to talk about budgeting. And is it a mental note that you have in your head? Ish, I'm getting 10 grand this month. My salary is 10 grand and therefore the school fees is da-da-da-da. Or is it important to actually sit down and look at the rands and cents? When you write it down and say, okay, the 10 grand is coming in, but such and such is going out for this reason and da-da-da-da-da-da. Or is it okay to just obliviously, walk around with mental notes in your head? There are people that say you must never go grocery shopping on an empty stomach because you will soma buy everything. so in that conversation, should you have, just like when you go grocery shopping, you've got your list. Okay, I need eggs, I need cereal, I need da 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 da. When you do a budget, is it necessary to actually write it down, or it's okay, things are the same every month?
It is so critically important that you write it down. If I could shout from the rooftops today with a loudspeaker to everyone that can hear me, write it down. Write everything down. What you think, your perception of what you are spending versus what you see when it's written down is so different. Let me tell you, it's going to smack you in the face in a manner that you don't expect. It is so let me say this about budgeting. Not only that it is 100% critical that you write it down, but budgeting ultimately is about discipline. It's about financial courage. It's one thing to have it there and see, but you've got to live it. You've got to say, I now will not do this, or I now will do more of this. That's the discipline of budgeting. You've got it's a job to be done. That budget equals a job to be done. It's not a piece of paper that you can post on your fridge and say, "Kumnandi gubi." It's actually a job to be done, and that takes financial courage. Write it down. Do yourself a massive favor. I have the cost of my haircuts on my budget.
And that random drink you buy on your way back from work, you're driving home from work and you decide, you know what, here's a drive-through nyana. Let me get something to drink while I continue with my journey home. Is that in there as well?
Absolutely. I will not itemize the drink, but I will say under maybe entertainment, this is how much I have spent this month, right? So the drink will be included in there.
Yeah.
But I will know, and when you see that number relative to your car installment, it'll make you sweat. But you don't know that until you write it down. There's nothing more important. If you do one thing and nothing else, write down your budget.
So my husband and I like to pretend like we running this cute little company that we don't have. We have AGMs.
Yeah.
We think we're running something proper, and we like, you know what? Let's have AGMs. Let's have a financial what. Let's look at the finances. Let's look at the numbers. You had a goal you wanted to achieve, and now 3 months later, in this new quarter, let's review how much. Is that something that we should be considering in our marriages, or is it a waste of our time?
Absolutely. Absolutely. What you were spending this time last year is very different to what it is today. If you are not constantly sitting back and reviewing it, and this is kind of the value of that financial coach, that financial sort of partner in an advisor, right? This is the value because they give you a lens through which to look at your financial story. What you might be looking at is a fraction of the bigger picture. They help you kind of look at the bigger story. But the reason it's important to go back and say, hey, is because last year what was a kg of lamb at Spa
Oh, Lord.
versus what is it this year? It's not the same thing.
Mm.
So you might
Fuel is not the same.
fuel is not the same.
Electricity is not the same.
Correct.
Nothing's the same. But my salary is still the same.
That's it. See, so you got to go back and reassess, and take a look and say, are we still proportioning this thing correctly? Are we still doing that correctly? Because maybe DSTV is not that important anymore, right? Maybe it isn't. I don't disparage any any multi-choice subscribers at all, but I'm just saying, we've got to look at things and reprioritize all the time. Don't make a decision today and leave it for another 10 years. You're going to find yourself in trouble and not understand why.
So, is it important then in our marriages to be reviewing things like insurance, reviewing things like are we still on the right track in terms of paying that amount for that, or should we, tweak things around?
Absolutely. I'll tell you a story, an interesting story. It was in the heart of COVID, And I remember we were visiting somebody.
You were visiting in the heart of COVID.
Well, we were allowed to move at this stage.
Oh, okay.
And we had a family member who was ill.
Okay.
All right. Not with COVID though.
Okay.
But we had gone to the hospital, masks and all, and all safe and all that good stuff. Yeah? And I remember we parked outside a particular hospital and we saw 6 or 7 different hearses. When I say hearses, I mean brands of hearses, like from different companies, all lined up outside the hospital. Because this is that Delta one where everybody was not making it. That image, we're in the parking lot of the hospital. My wife and I sat in the car. We immediately went onto our apps. We're both at Momentum. We went into the apps and we said, let's take a look. Access Jong, life insurance, RAs, estate planning, wills. Let's just take a look because we looked at the scenario of what was happening in the country. It was such a shock to the system that it made us think, hey, Tanasam, if I don't make it through this year, Nizaba right? Nizaba safe?
So suddenly it's not just the numbers that the president is giving every week, telling us this week, so and so many people. Suddenly you've got a visualization of what could actually happen.
Absolutely. I saw 7 different brands of hearses and I thought people are dying. They're dying every day. That person could be either one of us or both. So we started having that conversation right then and there. Went into the apps, took a look at the numbers, took a look at everything and said, is this okay? Is this sufficient? We decided it wasn't. We made a choice right then and there that it wasn't. Let's fix.
So then that means we have to have conversations about those things while we're all still healthy, we all lovey-dovey, not waiting to be at someone's deathbed to say, I just want to know, do you have a will? When somebody's just,
Yes.
There's no time for that. Those things should be taken care of while we're still
it's such a taboo in our culture to talk about wills and what you leave behind. It's a taboo. Ilifa, it's oof. But at the very least, what you can do is to say, Ikona, I have one, and this is the person to contact.
Okay.
At the very, very least. My financial advisor asked me a very interesting question. And I was so proud of him for asking this question. He said to me, listen, if something had to happen to you, who should I be worried about in your family? Who's the person I should be most concerned about?
Concerned in what sense?
Manozohlupa.
Oh, the problematic family member. That uncle.
Who's the problematic one?
That uncle. Aha.
Who's the one who's going to have motives, ulterior motives? I didn't have a response, thank goodness. But I loved that he asked that question. I love that he's thinking about this thing in that way. Because when you're left behind, you're not there. You're not there. You don't know what's going to happen to your partner, to your spouse, from your siblings, from your aunties, or from uncle. You don't know. You're gone. So I loved the fact that this person is considering those things, which means I can say to my family, those I leave behind, call this one. You don't have to know the detail of what I've left behind, but here's a name and a number. call this person, and that will make everything
It-
sensible.
This sounds like an action movie, Booty. Thank you. It sounds like an action movie. If I die, there's an envelope, and it's got a number. You must call this person, and you'll get all the instructions. It really feels like something that comes from an action movie, Booty. Thank you so much for your time, for breaking this down for us and explaining to us on a much deeper level about our finances and how all Makoti out there can really just structure their lives, plan, and communicate with their partners effectively. Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. It's a pleasure.
And thank you to you for joining us. Get those randelas right. Okay? Don't say we didn't warn you. Right here on SNL 24. So until next time, bye bye, Stando.